Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be talking about using actions instead of workflow in SharePoint. My name is Will Cooper, and I'm the training coordinator for Infowise Solutions. And I have been working with the Infowise software for about 3.5 years. And I was a customer before I worked with Infowise, and part of the reason I work with Infowise is because I've been able to do so much with the Infowise software. There's a lot of functionality and features that are included with the Ultimate Forms software. One particular part of the software that I found to be extremely valuable is the action. So that's what we're going to take a look at today, and I'm going to show you how easily actions can be used in SharePoint and how you're able to quickly automate processes and make updates by creating these actions from the SharePoint interface. Before we jump into that, I just want to give you a little bit more info about myself. So my background is as a Microsoft web developer. I've been using SharePoint for about 5 years, both on-premise and Office 365. And I work with a variety of customers on SharePoint projects. And especially recently, in the last couple of years, I've been able to build comprehensive solutions for customers in SharePoint, primarily using most of the Infowise functionality to do that. So at this point we're going to jump in. What I'll be doing in the demo today is to basically show how you set up these actions, and we'll see how quickly this can be done. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a list I've created called Actions Projects. And I have a little bit of dummy data here. I've been playing with this list a little bit. So before we even get to the actions, I'll just show you a little bit of the fields I've set up on my list so that you can have a general idea of what we're working from. There's nothing special from this list in particular. It's just basically a projects list. I have preset some options for tabs. This is functionality that's very easy to use in the Infowise tool set. So what I'll do is start out by just creating a dummy project. So I'm going to do Cherry's project and status field. You can see I've got an indicator I can set up. And I'll say this is just a test for our demonstration. And in particular, I want you to kind of take note of how quickly I'm able to configure and set things up in our demo. So the general concept here is that I'm making a project, and we can have somebody who's assigning the project and have a person who's going to be assigned to. I'll make that me. And then I can assign tasks and things like that. History is going to be a read-only field we're going to use for tracking, and you're going to see how that works in just a minute. So all I did is just kind of show you some of the fields that we have set up in our list. So here's our dummy project. It's called the Cherries project. And you can see at this point there's just some basic information going on. The tasks list is just a sub-list associated with the project. So I'm going to kind of toggle back and forth at this point. What we've got with Infowise, it adds an option in your ribbon menu from the context of the list. So very easy to get to. I just go to the List tab, and you can see this additional option shows up. Very easy to find. You can see the puzzle pieces icon, and this will take me right into the Infowise design screen. This screen acts as a hub for all of the Infowise settings. So kind of the immediacy of these settings and the accessibility is very handy. I don't need to go off into another tool like SharePoint Designer, Visual Studio, or somewhere else to do this customization. It's directly in context to my list. So really fast to get to, and I think you'll find this makes things really easy. So our focus today is on the actions. There's many options related to Infowise in the settings area, but we're going to show a key part in terms of building automation and processes. So in our demo today, I'm going to be building out a variety of different actions. So all I really have to do in creating actions is work my way through 4 tabs of settings for each action. And this is going to let me set up and configure whatever I would like to do. So to start out, we'll do something really easy. I know that when my project is created, I want to make sure an email gets out to the person who this is assigned to. This is a list of the various actions that I can perform. This is very similar to the types of things you might otherwise do with workflow and SharePoint Designer. The difference is that this is going to be set up much faster. Okay, so I'm just going to pick send email from the list, and we'll just say send email to assigned to. I'm just going to copy and use that for description. For run on events, it's just basically which form I'm triggering from. What I want to do is send out that email when that project first gets created. So this is all I need on the first tab. Very simple and intuitive. For the advanced settings, normally I don't need to change those settings. We will a little bit later, and I'll explain that. But for now, we can just use the default settings. And then on the third tab, we can go ahead and use dynamic values. So I could explicitly set an email, but in our case, what we really want to happen is to get an email out to the assigned to person, so whoever is in that field. And so we can say new project for you. And then I can use field entries from the list. So I can insert the name of the person, and then I can put in something like the project title. That's what we're using for our title field. And then in the body, we can do some things to tell them a little bit more information. Okay, new project. I can put in a little bit of HTML if I want to. Really easy to update that if I need to. And I'm going to go ahead and say this is assigned by. I'll enter my field for assigned by, and then assigned to, and enter my field for assigned to. And then we probably like to have the description for the project, so I'll stick that in too. So basically I can get this dynamic information directly from my list by using these settings. And some break tags. Okay, so I do have a tool here which lets me insert this. So you can see there's a list of all of the fields that I have in my list. In addition, I can use some functions, like if I want to do lookup, current user, do some string functions, anything fancy like that. That's all right at my fingertips. I don't necessarily need all of that, but the depth is there to do some of that advanced configuration. So that's all I really need. Since this is always just going to run on the new form, I don't need any additional conditions. So I've just created my first action. After I save that, you're going to see a chain of actions show up at the top of the actions form. To save that out to the server, once I hit close, that will be saved. So we've already done our first action. You can see there wasn't really very many settings to do, very fast to set up. And then typically when you're doing this, you want to just go ahead and check it out. Let's see if it does the actions that I set up. So throughout our demo, that's what I'm going to do. So we'll say donuts project, and we'll say this is in progress. Okay, just entering in some dummy information. All right, I'm going to assign it to myself because I want to see if I can get an email. And then that's it. Okay, so all I'm doing basically there is just check the email functionality. I'm going to give that just a second to go through the pipes. We'll check my email in a second just to make sure it went through there. So we've done our first action. Now we want to go ahead and make another one. So next thing we want to do is we want to create this function to update the system date. This is a pesky problem in SharePoint. It doesn't inherently let you do calculations to do things like date tracking to find out when things are overdue, that type of thing. So what we can do is create a date field in our current list and update that using Infowise actions, and it's really easy to create. So that's what I'm going to do for my next action. All I have to do is select the update option. So that's the first one. And the reason it's first is because we use this all the time. So in this case, I'm going to do update system date. Okay. Now in this case, we're doing something a little different. This is going to be running on a timer. So as you would with workflow actions in SharePoint, you can schedule and run this according to whatever you need. So in my case, I just want to run this at midnight each day because I just need to keep updating that system date. By default, it's going to be midnight. So that's what I want. Go ahead and update the date on my list for me. Okay. So for advanced, again, I don't need to do anything there, and this one's easy. All I really need to do is assign. I've got a function in here for today. There it is on the list, so that's all that I'm using. For items, typically you just use this setting which says the current item. When I say ID equals ID, it tells the system that I just want to update only this one record. Okay, and then I'll do one other thing. I want to go ahead and say that once these projects are completed, I don't really need to keep doing that anymore. So what we're going to say is that we're only going to do this when the status is always not equal to complete. So you can see I can put in all these conditions and settings to get exactly what I want. Okay, so we've completed our second action. This is great. Every night at midnight, all my projects are going to get updated. I'll get a system date, and now I can do some really nice things like date calculations. That'll do things like tell me when things are overdue. You can trigger emails on that. You can see things like this, days until deadline, all kinds of cool stuff. We can do timeline, all based on getting those updates to that field. All right. One thing I'll mention as I continue forward, if you have any questions, please go ahead and stick them into the chat interface and GoToMeeting. You see a question section in there. We do want to make sure we answer that. There's other people with Infowise who will answer while I'm doing my presentation, so take advantage of that. So we've done our first two actions very quickly, very easily. The next thing I want to do is set up something so I can do a little bit of logging. Basically, when you're doing project management in SharePoint, what you'd really like is some kind of log to show us what's going on. When did the status change? Who's making these updates? When was the last time it was updated? That kind of thing. So we can kind of see a trail of what's going on. It can tell us things that are stalled out, that type of thing. It is really easy for us to automate this. And what we want to do is keep track of whenever the status changes in these projects. So I'm going to show you exactly how we can automate that process. So if I go in here, what I can do, it's another update action. And I'm going to use that first option. And what I'm looking to do is update the history. Okay, this one's only going to run on edit. I'm not making history updates on the new form. And then what I want to do is go into my action settings. Don't need anything for advanced for this particular one. And what I'm doing is using this history field to show me a log. I've already written up some code for this already. Nothing complicated, just some HTML and things like that, which will insert field values, give us a little bit of formatting, and this will prepend into our history log with each update. Same thing as before, you'll notice this pattern here where I'm using ID equals ID, And again, that just tells it to update only the current item. Okay, and then I do need a condition here. I don't want it to make updates in the log always. We might end up with a really long log otherwise. What we're checking for in particular is when the status gets updated. And then what we're going to do here is once the status is changed, that's when I want to make an update. Otherwise, it will ignore this rule. Okay, so there's our third action. As I mentioned, it's very nice. I can go ahead and check this really quick. So there's this immediate connection. I can verify these settings I'm making and know that I'm right on track. All right, so what we're going to do is update our donuts project, and I'm going to change the status because what I want to know is if it's going to update my history log for me. Okay. So what I want to do is look at my history section and see whether that's the case. There it is. It's made an entry in my history log. Let's change status one more time and just make sure this is doing exactly what I think it's going to do. Okay, there it is. You can see it's pre-pending whatever the most recent event is. So now I have a nice history trail automatically on any of these projects as they're being updated. So anyone can take a look and see what the whole history of the project is. Meanwhile, here's my email I got. This was automated. The project came in automatically. The person who is signed is getting an email. I can use whatever kind of formatting I want. Just for the sake of our demo, we did something very basic there. Okay, so now we got 3 actions going. We'll go ahead and go on to the 4th. And what I want to show you next is generating a list item through an action. I've made an additional list called Actions Project Status Updates. This would be like a kind of a general log across all the projects whenever status is changing. So I'm going to set up some conditions to add a record to this other list based on updates to the Actions projects. Okay, so we're going to go in here. I'm going to add my 4th action. These all form in a chain. This is the sequence in which the actions will be triggered. This becomes more important when you're doing more complicated logic, if you have to reset fields, things of that nature. So this sequence does matter, and you can change that at any time. Okay, this time I'm using the create list item function, and what we're doing here is creating an action project status update. All right, this will be on edit, and we're going to use a condition for that later. So this is sort of like the history logging, but in this case we're creating a record in a separate list. Once again, I don't need anything in advance for this particular one. And what it wants to know is which list I'm going to create a record in. In this case, there's the list, Actions, Project Status Updates. And I'm just going to set a few values. It's a very simple one. So what I want to do in the separate list is capture the variables. So my other list, when it creates that new record, I want to set a few of those fields. So the project is going to get the project value. Status is going to get the status value. And then one other thing. We have a user field, and the user is just the current user, which is me. Okay, we do need a condition. I need to make sure I control when this occurs. And again, this is something I really only want to trigger when the status changes, so that's what this extra information is. That's it. That's all I need to do to create the actions. You can see it show up in that chain of actions up at the top of the screen. And again, I always want to follow this pattern. I want to verify. I want to see if this is actually doing what I expect it to be doing. So I'll go ahead and make another status change, and I want to go to my other list and see if it's writing a record for me. So I just set the Donuts project on hold, and if I go to Action Project Status Updates, we should see a new record in there. There it is. So now I have a nice log. I can see overall activity for the tool, another list. So you know, I could create records for any kind of a reason. This is just a simple example of how that would work. So now you've got a relationship between two different lists. Okay, there's our fourth action. We'll go ahead and go on to the next one. Next function I want to do is I want people to have the ability to copy a project. And the other thing I would like is to create an action that the user can trigger by clicking a button in the user interface. So rather than by a rule, I want to open up options to let the user pick when an action would be triggered. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just go in here and, of course, just pick the copy option, and this is for copy project. And this is what's going to show on the button, too. You're going to see that in a second. Okay, this is going to be available to users in the edit form, so that's the only option I'm checking there. And then in this case, what I'm going to do is check a box. It says execute through the context menu ribbon. This is what exposes the button for the user. This is a copy. I'm just going to pick a system icon for that. That's what will show in the user interface. And I'm going to add a little message. Are you sure you want to copy this project? Okay, that's good. And let's see. All right, now we're going to go on to the next settings section. And in here, it's basically asking me for some additional information. You're going to see this setting that I applied before. I just want to copy the current item. You could, in theory, copy multiple items, so that's why you have an option here. But we just want to copy this specific record. And then for the values to set on this copy, I want to give it a different name for the project title. So this is where I'm going to use the project name, and then I'm going to put copy in all caps. So we're going to make it really obvious that this is a copy of that project. I just click Save. Didn't need any conditions on that particular one. When I close out, now this additional action is available to me. I'm going to refresh this screen, and what I do is I go into this context menu for the project, and in Office 365 I do this. I just go to Run Actions, and I can build up all kinds of different actions. Right now I'm just doing Copy Project. There's my confirmation dialog. You can optionally use that. And then it gives me a nice success message when I'm done. And lo and behold, there's a copy of the Donuts project, and it has the label that I put in. So I'm able to expose and create functionality for my users that way. So that's pretty cool. Okay, there's our fifth action. As I'm doing this, consider what you would have to do in order to create this with out-of-the-box SharePoint. It's be done through SharePoint Designer, doing actions, and it would be much more time to go through any of these kind of processes. All right, next one we're going to do is we're going to kind of raise it up a level, and we're going to create a library. So I'm going to go to the Create List option. And what I want to do now is have an option so the user can create a project library for the project. So now I'm able to create an entire list or library through automation. They don't have to go into site contents. They don't have to do anything at all. All they're going to have to do is click a button. I want this option available on Edit, and similar to the last one, I want to make that show in the ribbon, and I'll use this icon, and we'll do the confirm. Okay, in case there's permissions issue, you can do an override for that. Impersonation makes it where they wouldn't be blocked, for example, based on site permissions. So sometimes that's necessary if you're doing things like managing permissions, creating sites, that type of thing. So that's an additional option. On the action settings, just basically I'm designating where this is going to be created. It is going to be in the current site, and all we're trying to do is create a document library, and the name of our library is going to be the project library, and then we'll make it whoever's in the assigned to field. So it's going to dynamically set the name for me. Our key thing is we want to make sure it has a unique description because we don't want to make duplicates there. I don't want it to show up on the quick launch. We get a cluttered navigation, so that's no good. And I'll just click Save. We don't need any extra conditions here. So there's our next action. We've done 6 now. And then I want to check this out. So I'm just going to refresh. I'll go back in that context menu. Now I'm going to actually make it create a document library for me. So I'm going back to the actions. And now I've got a new option. Create project library. So are you sure you want to do that? It gives me a little progress updater icon, so I just need to wait a second. Of course, just as you would in SharePoint, it takes a little bit of time for that to be created. We do get our confirmation response. And now, if I go into the site contents, going to find that we've got a new document library. All right, so there we go. So there's Bananas Project Library, and we've got different options there. Okay, so what I'm going to do, oh, here we go. Donuts Project Copy Library. Got a little confused for a second. Okay, so that's the new library that we just created. All right, so what we want to do next is take it even a level beyond that. You can actually automate the task of creating an entire site. What we want to do is create a team site. That's the last action that I'm going to demo today, and then I'll explain a couple more things about actions, and we'll kind of go towards the wrap-up at the end. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is give an option to actually create a project site using actions. Okay, so in here we've got another option to create a site, and this is going to show in the interface. So we're going to say create project site. Again, it's available on edit. It's going to show to the user in the context menu. We'll use this icon, and we'll do personation in case we've got a permissions issue. You want to make sure that site gets generated regardless of the user. And then in the actions area, what we want to do is make sure we get the name of that site correct. So what we'll do is just say project team site. We're going to use that same thing for the URL. So these are the kinds of settings that you normally are setting manually when you're creating a site in the SharePoint interface. The template, we want to use the team site templates. Got to make sure you set that. We don't want to use anything else. And we'll let it go ahead and inherit permissions. That's what you would normally do. And I've got other options there as well. And that's all I need. Okay, there's our last action that we're creating for our demo. See, every single time I want to check this. I want to make sure that it's going to do exactly what I expect it's going to do. So I'm going to go back in those actions, and I'm going to create a project site. Hit OK. Now this takes a little more time, and it's just like the SharePoint interface. SharePoint's working in the background. It's creating the team site. Our Infowise action is waiting for confirmation back from the SharePoint server to confirm that that has been created. So very typical for SharePoint to take about 20-30 seconds to create that site. So it'll give us a confirmation dialog here in a second. While I'm waiting for that to update, I'll talk about some of the other actions that are available. We can't demo all of those on our call today. Additional actions, there we go. We've got a success confirmation, and just to prove that it really did create that site, if you look under the subsites, I've got a new Apple's Project Team site, which is exactly what I want. Named it how I want. It's going to use the URL that I want. That's exactly what we like. So we're automating these things that might otherwise be manual. So we're gaining a lot of efficiency and time savings there. Other actions. Let's talk about what else there is, because we can't go through everything today. There are many options here. Of course, if you have existing workflows, you can go ahead and trigger and continue to use those. So it's not as if you don't have use for your SharePoint workflows anymore. You can call on those anytime that you want. You can also manage permissions. I found this one extremely handy. It can take a lot of time to manage permissions, so if you can automate that, it makes it easier. And it lets you do all aspects of that. You can break inheritance on the permissions. You can add or remove permissions. You can automate all of that. That can be done at site level, list level, item level. So you can get very granular if you need to. So really opens the possibility to kind of build some interesting tools. You can do things like do item level control, where you've got multiple users coming in to access a list, but you only want those users to see their own records. So some very interesting possibilities with that. You can tap into Infowise print functionality, which will give you PDF output. You can automate that process. I can call in external web services, generate tasks, manage Active Directory, all kinds of possibilities. So it's really pretty interesting, all of the various things that you can do with this. To me, what I like is that this is accessible. So this is something that a kind of a SharePoint power user can start using right away. But there's also the depth for a SharePoint developer, a more advanced user to build more sophisticated workflow and business logic. So a lot of possibilities with the Infowise actions, and very easy for me to get to through the interface, and very easy for me to verify the functionality as I create it. So overall, a very efficient process. So that's it. We've got about half hour. I'm just going to say a couple other things before we wrap up. And if you do have questions, certainly stay in the call. I'll be on, and we'll be answering questions in chat as they come up. If you're more interested about this product, and I hope that you are, the next step would be to go to the InfowiseSolutions.com website. And if you go on the website, if you click on products and go to Ultimate Forms, you'll see information about on-premise, if that's the environment you use, or Office 365. And both of these product versions are going to have the same functionality and use the same processes. In both cases, you can download a free demo. Very simple to do that. You can just click the download button and just follow the steps. And it does provide information on how to install that. And I do find that actually trying the product a little bit really will help you experience the functionality, and really straightforward to do that. And then another thing I mentioned, if you do get started with this product and you're interested in doing an in-depth ramp up and do a little practice with this, we do offer web-based lab training. And we do an in-depth 5-hour presentation for up to 8 members of your team. So if you have any concerns about it being difficult to get started or learning the product, we really want to help you get over that hump and get started quickly. So this is an additional offering that you can get with a product to really hit the ground running. That's about everything I had to present today. I'm very happy for everyone joining our call. I hope you're interested and that you see the possibilities for using this product to help you solve your SharePoint challenges. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is willc@infowisesolutions.com, and we'd be happy to answer any kind of questions you have about the product. Thanks again for joining today, and hopefully we'll see some of you again soon in our next presentation. Thanks.